Oscar Wilde was one of the late Victorian era authors. He was a really different man in this time period and very controversial in the things that he wrote, some of which we are going to read in class. And so we're calling this the Oscar Wilde Project. You'll read a few things that he wrote. And per usual, it's a kind of layered project to give you some flexibility and freedom as you're doing the project. And it's one of the more simple projects that we'll do in the class this semester. And so this is on here for you to read, but basically we're just doing a few things. So you'll get points for participating and reading his play, The Importance of Being Earnest. We'll read that in class and at home, just depending on how much we can get done in class. And everyone will take turns playing a part. And I think you'll really enjoy this play. It's really funny. And you'll have a quiz over a piece called The Importance of Being Hilarious, Synopsis, and Background. That is at the end of this document, right about here. It just gives you an idea of the overview of the novel, or I'm sorry, overview of the skit, the play, and the characters and what kind of ideas that you can look for throughout the play as we read it. And there will be a quiz on Emoto over that. That would be due before you come to class on Friday, March 20th. And you'll do a little presentation. It's really short, 4 to 8 minutes with a partner. And you can choose one of these questions pertaining to Oscar Wilde or the Victorian era. They're pretty simple to look up. And this is just short. It's a 4 to 8 minute presentation. Include a simple handout and cite your sources. And you can just provide a simple visual. It doesn't have to be a full-on PowerPoint or Prezi. You can do that if you want. You could even just show a picture or whatever. Just something really simple. Keep it simple and to the point. And we'll have a sign up for those in class. You can sign up for the topic that you want. We're going to read a piece that is very different from The Importance of Being Earnest. It's called The Ballad of Reading Jail, right here. That's Reading Jail. That's how it was spelled. So we'll talk more about that piece, but it is in a very different vein than The Importance of Being Earnest. It's one of my favorite poems, and so there'll be some questions and discussion that we'll do over that for 15 points. And then simply the last thing it will do is a skit, and you'll do this in groups of 4 or 5, and you're going to write a 3-act skit modeled after The Importance of Being Earnest. And you can do a skit or a video, whatever one that you want. But what you'll do is place the setting at our school. And just like Oscar Wilde, you'll make fun of any artificial standards and mores that are important at clips and make serious matters things that are considered trivial at clips. So just like Ernest does, Oscar Wilde does in Ernest, that you will take things that are trivial and make them very serious and blown out of proportion, and things that are really important, you'll downplay them. And you'll understand what that means as we read the play. But you'll get to take a look at our school and think about what do we really hold dear? What is a norm or a more here? Are there any taboos that we, as our little culture, we don't want to talk about or we don't want to address? Those are things that you get to explore in this, and you'll get a lot of creative liberty here, and it's for fun. And remember, you're not making fun of specific students or teachers. This isn't a time for you to just bully, but it's a time to look at our culture and say, okay, what do we do that maybe we could change or maybe is silly to outsiders? And remember, this is satirical. This is writing something for the purpose of reform, but doing it in a funny way. You want to get the audience to laugh along with you. That's one of the main keys of satire, is that ethos, that you connect with your audience in a way that says, I am just like you. I'm in the same scenario, and I think it's funny that we do it like this, and you should too. And that's the key part of satire. You don't want to offend people without also putting yourself in that as well. You're not above or outside of it. And so you'll follow a typical movie maker's plot. At the end of Act 1, your main character is drawn deeply into a conflict. At the end of Act 2, the character is far away from his or her goals. And at the end of Act 3, the story is resolved and the conflict is gone. This is key for you to remember, that your plot has to be driven by what's happening with your characters. So you'll have to think up some sort of main conflict that's happening in this story. Maybe there's a school election, or there is a house competition coming up, and these characters have to compete against each other, but they're best friends. Okay, so you're weaving in these conflicts with your characters so that the plot can move forward. Otherwise, you'll have a really boring skit. So think of vivid characters. How can you characterize them? Are there foil characters who bring out the main characteristics of your protagonist? Who's your antagonist? How are they making the plot move forward? What about students or teachers do you want to point out, and how can you write your characters in such a way that they embody those things? So maybe you want to poke fun at um, the fact that you have to wear uniforms. This is a classic case. The purpose isn't to make fun of uniforms, okay? Your plot should not be driven by that. That's a side thing. It might be some inside joke that runs throughout the skit. It might be something that you really downplay because we take it so seriously at Clips in real life. There are consequences for not wearing dress code. Maybe in your skit, you want to downplay that. Maybe everyone comes out of dress code and the teachers don't care, and they award house points, um, and you have maybe a new student come in and they actually do wear dress code and they're trying to figure out, the culture of this school or whatever. So you don't want the jokes to run the plot at all. You want the characters and the plot development to kind of go hand in hand. The jokes are things that add that spice to it. So once you keep that in mind, you have to start with your characters, you have to start with your incidents, and then you add in the jokes. That is what true writers do. The writers of the funny shows that we're watching, like The Office or Parks and Rec, whatever you guys are watching, they start with the plot and then they weave in the funny that helps kind of move it along. But it's not all about the funny parts. It's about the plot. So your skit or video, you can make a video if you want with this, but make sure it's a really quality video. We can hear you and understand what's going on. Sometimes we think a video is good, but then it doesn't really translate to the real live audience. So I kind of encourage groups, if you're not a really skilled movie maker, that you don't do a movie, just perform the skit. If you do a skit, it doesn't have to be memorized. You can have the script with you, but it does need to be practice. I expect you guys to have a time of practicing and getting your lines down so that they come across correctly. If you're not a funny person and you don't know how to deliver funny lines, maybe you don't play the funny person in the skit. And I don't mean that to be offensive, but I think that you should allow the person who can deliver those lines to be that person, to be the funny person. So maybe within your group you decide who that's going to be. And then so what you'll turn in is your skit that's typed. Remember, it's 3 acts. You're going to turn that into Edmodo on April 8th so that I know you wrote it. And then on April 10th, that's where you'll either show your video or perform your skit to the class. And your classmates are going to fill out an evaluation on you while I grade your skit. And and it's always really fun. You could really have any kind of fun with it that you want. You can bring things for the audience to do. You can have props and outfits, whatever you want to do. And so here is the grading rubric for the skits. Remember that it needs to be witty, just like The Importance of Being Earnest, and you need to have a clever title. So think about how much I've harped on the title of all the pieces that we've ever read in class. Why is it called that? So you'll understand that The Importance of Being Earnest has a double meaning. So maybe you could have a title with a double meaning. Your characters need to speak seriously, but they're making puns and jokes about their environment and culture. So they're not it's not a stand-up comedian. They're actually being serious, okay? But they're talking in jokes and puns. Make sure that your plot works. Make sure that there's an inciting incident at the beginning. There's a rising action, a climax, a falling action, and denouement, which is the resolution. Characters need to move the plot along. They need to work in conjunction with each other for an effective plot line. And your dialogue is key. That's where that's where you're going to reveal those twisted values of the school and any character traits of maybe the people who are here. So, um, make Jasper, make sure it's long enough. Think about 2 to 3 pages typed per act. So that's about 6 to 9 pages total for your 3 acts. And then make sure it follows the movie maker's plot, and that's 15 to 20 minutes long. I do expect you guys to practice this with your groups. And here is a schedule of everything that's due over the course of this project so that you know when everything is due. And again, all the point values are listed up here on the first page. And I think that's it. So have fun with it. Really enjoy reading the skit and writing your own. And I hope that this is a project that you guys remember forever and always. And please forgive my dog barking in the background of this video. He really wants to play.